Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Ramsey, and I'm the Senior Director of Donor Engagement here at the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines. Welcome to the Donor Connect series. This is a community conversation series that we do every year. And this is our first of two sessions here, kicking off the new year here in 2024. So we're really glad that you're here to join us today. This Donor Connect today will focus on the 2023 grant recipients from the Community Foundation's Better Together Fund. So as you know, if you've joined us before, this conversation series is designed to bring our community together around our region's most pressing issues and promising opportunities. As a reminder, as you see on the screen here, this is a two-part series. So we've got time together today for 45 minutes, and then also tomorrow. Same time, same link. You'll be able to get in with that same Zoom link. So again, we will be hosting more Donor Connect events throughout the year as this community conversation evolves, and you will be receiving information about those future opportunities. And we hope you'll join us for those as well. The events, it's really an opportunity to bring our community together, again, around these issues and just share questions as well. So to participate in this discussion today, we have the chat open and you can post your questions there. I'll be monitoring the chat and letting Angie know. She will be weaving in those questions throughout our time together. So I would like to introduce Angie Detlefs-Tretton, tongue-tied today. She is our Chief Community Impact Officer, who we are lucky to have lead this awesome work here at the foundation. And she will lead the discussion today. So take it away, Angie.
Great. Thanks so much, Sarah, and good afternoon, everyone. I am always excited to spend time talking about the work happening in community and the impact that the Better Together Fund is really fortunate to be able to make in so many different nonprofit projects all across the board in terms of interest areas that all focus on making a difference in Greater Des Moines. So this is our Grantee Spotlight series from 2023 grantees. I cannot believe that we are now in 2024. But as we begin today, I just want to provide a little bit of context to all of you on what the Better Together Fund really is all about. So the Better Together Fund was created as an opportunity for anyone who loves Greater Des Moines to give back and invest in our communities. The most important issues, the most promising opportunities, addressing some of our most critical challenges. And it's not only a fund that's focused on where we can provide grant support today, but it's really focused on what we can do together tomorrow. So the most simplest way maybe to think about it is that the Better Together Fund is our community savings account. And I'm certainly grateful for all of the donors who've invested in our region today and tomorrow. Now, the Better Together Fund is overseen by the Grant Making Committee, and we are very fortunate to have both board members and community members help identify where grant funds can go. I always say this, and I think it's worth repeating. You know, I certainly don't have a crystal ball. The Grant Making Committee members certainly don't have a crystal ball. And I really have yet to meet somebody who does. But the idea of the Better Together Fund is that no matter what we're going to face in the future, there will be some charitable dollars present to help make a difference and an impact. And that's where the fund comes in. So we have really an exciting opportunity to invest grant funds to organizations just like the three that we're going to talk with here today. And thank you. If you've been a donor to the Better Together Fund, thank you. If you are planning to leave contributions to the Better Together Fund through your legacy plans, thank you. There's a lot of good work happening now and a lot of good work happening in the years to come. So as I mentioned, 2023, we had the opportunity to invest in some very exciting projects, come alongside some very visionary leaders and organizations that are going to provide some significant impact in Greater Des Moines. And we're going to highlight half of them today, and we're going to highlight the other half tomorrow. And so we certainly invite you to come back and hear more about those grants tomorrow as well. So today, you're going to hear from 3 community leaders about projects. We're going to hear from Derek Frank from Oak Ridge, and is really leading the Oak Studios Teen Tech Center. We're also going to hear from Jenna Ekstrom with Habitat for Humanity here in Greater Des Moines to hear about their new capital campaign and impact across the region. And we're also going to have an opportunity to hear from Blair Massa with Ballet Des Moines. And I'm excited for you to hear about that project, which really might transcend some of your assumptions about what's happening with our local and our really extraordinary ballet. So with that, let's get started. And I've asked each of these 3 individuals to begin with a snapshot about the project that we were able to help support. So I'm going to invite Derek Frank to join me here on screen. And we're going to pull up an image. And Derek, would love for you to provide just some background. I know we could talk for hours about this, but some background about this incredible Oak Studio that really has just launched. So I'll turn it over to you here for a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Angie. And thank you so much for having me here and for this incredible opportunity. This wouldn't be possible without the Community Foundation by any means. But what Oak Studio is, it is a teen tech center that is a free program that is open to all people in the Des Moines area that are 13 to 21, not just Oak Ridge neighborhood. Even though Oak Ridge is the host organization, and that was really a big part of getting this grant through Best Buy and the funding through the Community Foundation because of the youth department that Oak Ridge already has. But where this extends is that this is a really great program for the youth to explore creativity through technology, through music, through anything that is something that they want to explore and they just don't know how to get it or they don't have access to it. So we have everything from 3D printers, laser cutters, full recording studio labs. We have a ton of different cameras so they can do photo and videography. We've got robotics. We've got all of our computers in here that are all equipped with the full Adobe suite. So it's really endless. But the coolest thing about it is as the youth start coming in, we don't really have a set program that they have to do. So as they start coming in, they really dictate what we do here. What their interests are is how we kind of steer what our program looks like. So even though there's over 50 teen tech centers in the country right now, none of them look the same. And I want to make sure that Des Moines has the absolute best. It's already tracking really well. We're just in our soft opening. We started December 1st, and in that time, we've already got about 45 signups and an average of 20 unique youth that come in every week.
That's incredible. Well, and you mentioned 50 teen tech centers across the country, and maybe just for those who aren't quite as familiar, Best Buy, of course, many of us associate Best Buy with technology, has a program where they do help launch and incentivize the start of these teen tech centers. And Oak Ridge still is the only teen tech center designated in Iowa, correct?
That's correct. And as of right now, I haven't heard any word that any other ones are going to be added anytime soon. So it's a really exciting opportunity to be the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it was really nice, the funding to help launch it, and then also the other partners that come around. And, like I said, the Community Foundation helping to invest in that work, but really this ongoing kind of relationship and lots of partnerships. I think you mentioned this, but it's in Mainframe Studios. So right down the street from where Oak Ridge's neighborhood is located. So I bet that's nice traction.
It really is. And it makes it so it's really easy access for a lot of the youth that we already know and encounter on a daily basis. Especially, it's great because one, we have all the resources of everybody in this building. So we have a lot of people that are willing to mentor and are in the arts, but then it's also right on the DART bus path. So anyone from the Des Moines area can get here pretty easily.
Well, it's awesome. I love these images and I'm excited to come check it out. And so I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about this, but I want to pause here and invite Jenna to join us. And we're going to hear a little bit about what's happening with Greater Des Moines Habitat for Humanity. I got to get that in the right order, Jenna. My apologies. And, I'm thinking about proximity, location matters. And I'm really excited about the work and the strategic direction that Habitat is headed for our region. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us what this Framing Our Future campaign is really all about.
Yeah, thanks, Angie. And thanks for allowing us to share a little bit. We are so excited to be thinking about how we can really do more in Central Iowa to meet the need for housing supply. So a little bit of context. So 1 in 8 of our neighbors here in Central Iowa is paying more than 50% of their income on their housing expenses. They're making sacrifices in other areas because of that. So their healthcare, transportation, education, healthy foods. So housing is more important than ever, and we want to make sure that we are really meeting the need to increase housing supply across our community. So framing our future is thinking differently about how we acquire land to build for the future, how we build multifamily housing to better steward that land resource, and then also how we work in mixed income development. So we provide opportunity for our youth to really thrive in this housing setting. So the piece I really want to talk about, and you can see on the slide here, is that housing is important in every zip code in our community. Affordable housing should be accessible in every single zip code in Central Iowa. And so the campaign serves to acquire 110 buildable lots for the future, half in areas of high opportunity and half in our urban core. So thinking about for the past 35 years, we've really invested in that urban core, Central City, Des Moines, to make sure that areas that have seen divestment have really been able to have affordable housing and resources provided to them. What we know to be true is that people want to live by where they work. Our workforce is broad, and we want to be able to have our nurses, our teachers' aides, our home health care aides, our construction workers, our truck drivers have access to that affordable housing by where they work. So that area of high opportunity land acquisition is a new component for us, and we're excited to really see how that goes in the future and to really invest across Central Iowa with that land acquisition.
And if I remember correctly, Jenna, too, part of the Framing Our Future approach is not only finding locations that meet people where they want to live, but also types of homes that meet people where they want to live as well. So, in your head, you might be imagining Habitat as a single family unit, but there have been some cool developments on like duplex work. Is that the correct terminology I should be using?
It is. So, or by attached is also
by attached. Thank you. By attached
works too. But yeah, that choice is really key to how we want to operate in the future. So not just choice in where our households live across the community, but choice in their housing type, their housing style. So making sure folks can age in place from when they purchase that home to when they become senior citizens, choice in size of the home. So from a 2-bedroom all the way up to a 5 or 6 bedroom, and then choice in yard size. So if you don't want a yard, that's great. Like let's provide those opportunities for you to be able to have choice in what your housing style looks like. And multifamily is a new endeavor for Habitat for Humanity, but this campaign is really going to allow us to invest more in that in their future, and definitely in those areas of high opportunity throughout Central Iowa.
That's great. Well, thank you. One of the things that you said at the very beginning of your comments was an opportunity to think differently. And that we should have stolen that thread as sort of the theme between all 3 of your organizations and these projects, because I really do think that all of you have, as organizations and leaders, both at the board and staff level, have really challenged yourself to think differently. And thank you for giving this background. And that tees me up perfectly to invite my next guest, Blair, to join us here with Ballet Des Moines. And boy, when you see this building, some people might see a Capitol build that feels maybe normal, right? I don't know the right word here, Blair, but to me, this is such a cool example of thinking differently with the ballet. So tell us about your project and what you're hoping to bring to life here very soon.
Well, thanks for your kind words, Angie. And as you mentioned in the earlier introduction, not everyone's assumptions and knowledge is on Ballet Des Moines, so I wanted to just give the 2-sentence version of who we are. Over the last 4 years, Ballet Des Moines has transformed from a company of 5 dancers to over 19 professional dancers, and we perform and run programming and education and outreach across the state. We take a really approach to education and outreach and engage our communities in a very trust-based way. So our partnership is really at the root of everything that we do. And the goal of our programming is to expand horizons and really inspire and enrich lives of every generation in every community across the state. There's a lot of data that shows that participation in arts programming changes academic outcomes. It changes all kinds of outcomes in people's lives, including civic engagement and community cohesion, empathy. So there's really a much broader goal in mind for us. We're very purpose driven rather than a traditional we perform to create something beautiful. And there's no problem with arts for art's sake, but we do a lot more than that. So the image you see on the screen is the Ballet Des Moines Campus for Arts and Education. It doesn't look like that yet, but it will. It's a transformational $2.5 million project that's creating a new home for our world-class ballet company, but it's also serving as a catalyst to infuse energy in a long vacant corner of downtown Des Moines. The campus will serve as a physical and virtual hub for the community, providing space for collaboration, shared resources for our partners, and a venue for pop-up performances, as well as low-cost rentals. With its central downtown location, the campus is going to create space for everyone to feel welcome, from at-risk families, young professionals, to corporate executives. And we already engage all those accessible. Additionally, they significant impact in revitalizing that downtown core. I think we all know that proximity makes a difference. You've mentioned that a couple times already today. And so we're really excited to be closer to our partners. We currently have 88 community partners in the state of Iowa. And many of them, a couple of them on this phone call right now, are located downtown. And as I think Derek mentioned, even things like being on the DART route is really going to make a difference for participation. We have folks that come to us from quite a ways away. And then, as I said, we also go to them across the state. So we're understatement to be able to expand our programming both here in the city of Des Moines, but also invest in the folks who are doing it so that they can take that work to their communities is really the chance of a lifetime. So we're grateful for the support and really excited to invite everybody over once the project is complete.
So Blair, for those that are trying to frantically place it in their brain, where is this building at? What's the landmark?
That's a nice lead into the Burgers and Ballet headline that the Register kindly posted after our press release. I am under the impression that this corner used to be a Burger King. I have never seen a Burger King there. It's been vacant for about 10 years, but it's the corner of 6th and Walnut. So it is right downtown. They just announced that the corner across the street that used to be Evolve Juicery is going to be a new French bistro. So I have already heard a number of stories. This is part of essentially an old mall. There's an atrium attached to our space. Our event in that atrium that is a communal public space, and we're excited because I know of already 3 or 4 different community conversations happening with the landlords to talk about bringing even more energy into that space, whether that's creative institutions or bars and restaurants. I know that everyone on this call is probably already aware, but the Americans for the Arts economic prosperity results just came out a few months ago, and every attendee or participant at an arts organization and an arts event in Iowa is spending roughly $70 on adjacent businesses. So the amount of economic energy that this will drive, in addition to just the creative collisions and the ability to actually collaborate, whether that's with other arts peers or with our interdisciplinary partners, we're really, really excited about that.
That's a great reminder for so many people. You know, you mentioned like arts for art's sake, and certainly creating something beautiful, which the ballet does in our community. And always when you peel this back, you peel back the layers of Ballet Des Moines, you peel back the layers of what's happening at the Oak Studio, you peel back the layers of even what's happening with Habitat for Humanity, and really seeing the deeper drives, the deeper connections to a lot of community issues and opportunities is really exciting. So I'm going to invite the other 2 to join us here on the screen, and let's just have a little bit of a conversation. I always get pretty energized, especially having talked to many of you about this before these projects got slated officially. You know, when you see things come to life, when you see visionary things come to life, it's really exciting. You all know one of the main questions that the Community Foundation is always asking and is really curious about is, how do nonprofit projects and initiatives help drive collective community vision? And several of you already, well, all 3 of you have already referenced that a little bit. For those of you who aren't as familiar on the call today, at the Community Foundation, we don't hold up a flag and say, this is the thing we're going to fund. What we do is we look at all types of community plans and visions that have been set out in our community, about 20 every single year. And it's voices of people that help us identify where we should invest. And each of you talked about how these projects drive collective community outcomes and drive particular initiatives. So I'd like to just hear a little bit more about that. And, Jenna, I think about, your teeing up around, we all know affordable housing is a challenge. I think we all know, but I think this is also an ongoing conversation, and some people don't know the depth of that sort of issue and the significance of it. I'm thinking of 3 plans right away that your work is really reflective of. The state of Black Polk County and homeownership with our Black neighbors, the Latinx project in the Nuestro Iowa report. Can you talk a little bit about how a project like yours, homeownership, all across the metro, advances those collective goals beyond just the impact to the person in the home, which we certainly know is great. I'm curious about how you frame that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I think, you hit it spot on that a lot of people look at housing as a commodity, and housing is really infrastructure. Housing is healthcare. Housing is connection and social capital, it's education. So we were able to really pull from the great work that those organizations you mentioned had already done to really try and align our work with what they saw as a great community need. When I mentioned earlier, 1 in 8 of our central Iowa neighbors is in this cost burden situation. It is far worse for Black and brown households in the state of Iowa and in Polk County in particular. And so there's a 40 percentage point difference between white homeownership and Black homeownership in the state of Iowa. And that is one of the worst in the nation. And so we know that a huge driver for wealth in the US is homeownership. That creates generational wealth, it creates stability and self-sufficiency. So we wanted to speak to those plans, One Economy's plan in particular, and the work that United Way's Opportunity is doing as well, to make sure that we were speaking to those things. I mentioned health, and that's a really key component of those plans as well. And so something that I think is staggering is that up to 60% of an individual's health is dictated by the zip code they live in. And so going back to that idea of being able to access and purchase land throughout central Iowa means that we're able to create more equity between the zip codes and help people's health improve. In addition to that, when people have affordable housing, they spend up to 5 times more on their healthcare and on healthy foods. So it has this ripple effect to really impact them holistically. And that's not to mention like the social capital that's created. And so we were so thrilled to be able to apply for the support from the Community Foundation, bringing all those plans to light, but also hopefully being able to tick a lot of those boxes from the Community Foundation to be able to say, here's how we're really hoping to impact that in the future. So I think a lot of good work, and I hear some collaborative opportunities with our other 2 partners on this call too, that now I'm excited to discuss afterwards.
Well, and I know as we were teeing up, Derek and Blair were even referencing a partnership that they have between not necessarily Oak Studio, but certainly through Oak Ridge. And I know, Oak Ridge providing affordable housing opportunities for many of our neighbors in this community too. And you're right, it is about what can we do to leverage our collective assets to drive community work forward. Blair, we did talk about proximity. We did talk about all these different things. And I want to jump to you and just, when you think about the intersection of regional plans and the work that you're doing, Ballet Des Moines, some people might immediately think like, oh, it connects with the regional cultural assessment. That's where the connection is. But there's so many other places where the connections exist. So, you've started to cultivate more of those connections through those trust-based relationships. You've started to really reach out as an organization and build those connection points in different ways in different organizations. So can you talk a little bit about what that process has been like to really integrate sort of the work of the ballet cross sectors in our community too? And what's it been like, and where there's some promising opportunities that you're hopeful about?
Yes, do you have 3 hours?
Yeah, I know.
I could talk about I'll be as quick as I can. I love the way that Jenna was speaking about how housing has an impact on so many things beyond the small box that we would put housing into. And I feel like it's breaking down those assumptions and the barriers of the arts aren't for everyone. They're not an essential need. The more I work in this field, and it's been a couple of decades already, but the longer I look into the effects of being a part of some of the program that is primarily creative, but even academic programming that just has a tiny bit of additional and creative energy, it changes so many things that have really nothing to do with the arts. When I say arts education, and particularly Ballet Des Moines, we're not talking about creating dancers or painters. We're not even really necessarily talking about creating lighting designers, although one of the things that Derek mentioned that made me so excited is that so much of what we do, particularly with our summer STEM tour, is what we call career connections, where the idea isn't, again, come watch the ballet and get inspired to be a ballet dancer. It's come watch the ballet and understand that 100 people went into creating this. It's not just the 6 dancers or 8 or 10, 15 dancers you see on the stage. It's a choreographer, it's a musician, it's a production manager, it's a venue operator, it's me. I mean, I have an economics degree. It's like different pieces of the puzzle, and you can still be part of something that makes your heart sing. And I think that we lose that a lot in the system and in when we draw boxes around things that are too small. So I'm really excited in the work that we do that really crosses disciplines. So the STEM tour is a great example. Our work with Oak Ridge is a great example. The data behind how access to the arts changes outcomes is infinitely stronger with Black and Brown communities than it is in other communities. And so we do our best to build equity as we build out those programs. And I hear everybody kind of talking about equity without using the word, which I kind of love, because we're not here to talk about buzzwords. We're here to actually make change. That purpose-driven institution, I can feel, is a part of what Community Foundation is really focused on. So I think that the real crux of it is redefining what partnership looks like. And I remember talking with the partnership, the Des Moines partnership, about this with specific regard to public-private partnerships. And I think that our project is a great example of that, because the Community Foundation, Bravo, but also our landlords, EMC, were the 3 pillars that allowed the project to move forward. And so Bravo and the Community Foundation are community-focused institutions. But a lot of people, I think, struggle when they think about partnering with corporate entities, because they make assumptions about values not aligning. But the reality is that what we're trying to do, particularly with the campus, is change the tone of our downtown region. It's change outcomes and improve quality of life. It's keep people not just downtown, but also in Des Moines, in Iowa. It's attract people. It's so many, to your point, of the regional priorities, not just cultural priorities and not even just societal priorities, but economic priorities, all kinds of goals that our community is setting day after day. We are speaking to those through arts education programs and by opening doors so that kiddos that didn't previously have an opportunity, like in Derek's situation in the studio, they didn't know that they could explore that part of who they are. So we're really creating opportunities and just connecting different things that people wouldn't automatically think go together, just like this phone call, just like some, a ballet STEM tour that people don't know what that means, and I have to explain it. But this year it's going to be stargazing after a performance of Midsummer Night's Dream. We did an entire ballet on the science of space, which is why I'm currently in space. So there are so many things that you can connect that it just takes a minute of pushing aside your assumptions, and you realize how much change you can make by partnering with folks that are working in a totally different corner of the university.
I love that. And as soon as you said STEM, I'm looking over at Jenna's backdrop, right? And there's like nothing really defined. Well, a definition of STEM that jumps into my head, I suppose there are several, is this idea of construction, right? Like how all of those mechanical things need to go into mathematics and engineering and all of these things that really go into building the infrastructure that our families need. And then I drop down and I see Derek's video here and think about all the stuff that's happening at Oak Studios. And you all connected a lot of your work to the similar plans that Blair referenced and Jenna referenced, and really considering some of the things happening at Oak Studio related to workforce. I mean, goodness, Blair just reminded us the ballet takes a lot more than the dancers. I mean, you think about the lighting, production, and things that go into it. There's more than just tinkering with virtual reality happening at Oak Studio. So tell us about how you're leaning into piquing curiosity for our workforce, both today and tomorrow's workforce.
Yeah, of course. And it's kind of ironic that Blair had mentioned about lighting, because one of the projects we're doing right now, and she had no idea about this, but we're actually working on programming DMX lighting. So like these really cool lights behind me are all DMX lights, which what that is what every concert like or theater setting, the lighting in there is all DMX controlled. So what it's doing here though is it's building that confidence, especially in like STEM aspects, and giving these youth an opportunity to feel like they're not left behind, or give them an opportunity to actually look at an internship or mentoring or even getting a job in the tech field. So what we do is we really help build that up, but also we build those relationships in the community with other businesses and other organizations to find them opportunities to learn from people in the community that are doing these things. Because really, at the end of the day, the biggest issue that we have with workforce is access, where we have all these amazing companies moving to Des Moines, whether it's Microsoft and Google and Meta and Apple, and then companies we already have like John Deere and their technology. But a lot of these youth don't even know that these are a possibility and don't realize that you might not even need a 4-year college degree to get into it. So we want to give them that confidence here. And we do that through creativity. We let them explore. We let them decide that they like doing this stuff that they had no idea, and then they can get into it. So like it would be an opportunity where with Jenna, with Habitat for Humanity, that they might not know that they want to get in construction, but they find that they're really good at designing 3D software, 3D prints. They love doing 3D printing, especially like we've printed so many Nike shoes on the 3D printer. Like we're going to have to fund more 3D printing filament. But then they could realize that's all the same software that CAD uses. And so now they can get into a field of construction, or getting into being an electrician or the trades, or they can really like the lighting design. Now they can go into being a touring, not even an artist, but working as like a touring light designer or sound designer, or work at a theater or a local theater. We have no shortage of amazing theaters here in Des Moines within a few blocks. So there's just so many opportunities, and we want to do what we can to help them have those.
So this is what I love, is this idea of like, oh, and then, right? Like, oh, I wonder if. So you all are very visionary in terms of how you approach your work. What advice? So one of the questions that I think is often asked is, so how can donors help continue to support your what if questions? I mean, of course, there's always funding, but like, what do you need from this community to continue to give you space to imagine? Are there certain things that might be missing?
I know that for me, it's just having people be aware of the space, even though we're new. First Friday at Mainframe is the perfect opportunity to come check it out, because we always have youth in here working and doing stuff, but they love showing this place off. The last First Friday, they were giving tours. I didn't have to do anything. It was pretty great. I just got to kind of hang back and just relax. And the youth, like, they love this place. It's their space. So I need the community to want to come down here, to, send their teens down here, to even, potentially be a mentor and a volunteer. That's what we really need.
Yeah, I think hands-on, right? That tangibility, like Derek's talking about, coming to see it. For us, that equates to volunteerism. So it's swinging a hammer, it's rolling up your sleeves, it's advocating and telling your elected officials what is important to you. Is housing important to you and your community? Are the arts important to you? Is STEM important to you? We want folks to be able to use their voices and share what they're passionate about. And housing is expensive, so we absolutely need that financial support. support, but that volunteer component is key. So not only does it help us get the work done, it helps you to see the product in a very different way. It's not sticks and bricks, it's people, it's your neighbors, it's the folks that you see every day. And I think that that's a really key piece of what volunteerism can do. And in such an incredibly divided society, it's so great to come out on site and everyone's the same when you're swinging a hammer. It doesn't matter, you're all the same, and we're all probably equally as terrible at it. And we're here to teach you to be really great at it. So that's what I would say.
I was hoping you were going to say that because I was like, I don't know if I'd be equally as great, Jenna. I mean, I did go on a build and it was not my finest moment, but I was very proud to be there.
We'll teach you. We'll teach you everything you need to know.
That is true. I will hear that is true. Blair, sorry to interrupt.
Well, I want to build on what I heard both of my colleagues here say, which is just showing up is one of the biggest things you can do, but also challenging your assumptions. I think I have been surprised part of campaign that we've been doing around at the number of people who say, oh yeah, I've seen the ballet and they saw the Nutcracker 15 years ago, and that checked that box for what they believe that is and what impact they believe that can have. And I think that the same goes for both of my colleagues and their projects and their institutions. There is so much more, and there are so many incredible visionary leaders doing work to break down barriers and make connections across these industries and really open up opportunities for the people in our community. And that is where community cohesion happens, is when we can actually stop existing in silos. So I really want people to challenge the assumption that they're making that XYZ, I can't throw a hammer. I mean, Angie, you know, I've been working to get you in a pair of tap shoes for a couple of years. So we're gonna open the show with Angie and Sally Dix in the front with their jazz hands. It's gonna be great. But I mean it. The number of people that start a conversation by saying, ballet's not my thing, or, you know, I can't throw a hammer, or I'm really not a singer. Challenge your assumptions. I'm not saying you have to get on the stage, but go check it out and see what it looks like. You know, meet the people, meet the kiddos that are at the studio, meet the dancers, the 20 dancers that have moved to Des Moines to be a part of this company, find out why they've moved here and meet them and understand that those people are a part of the community here now too. There's just so much to be gained by actually showing up and having a conversation and asking questions. So those would be the things that I would request from our community.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just jotting down. I'm always frantically taking down your notes because you all have just such really good sound bites. You know, I love some of these things. And I'm going back to, you know, Jenna, this whole idea of thinking differently. I mean, I think that all of these are just continuous examples of that. And, you know, some of the takeaways just in what you're all saying, volunteer and advocate. I mean, all of your organizations, and advocate doesn't have to mean lobby, right? I mean, like some of us make this massive assumption. Advocate for issues, ask the questions. But I love that because it really does engage every single person. Absolutely. The other thing, Blair, that I took out of what you were just saying is this idea of like being curious. You know, you talked about challenge assumptions, but I also think it goes a little bit further. You know, like how are you curious about the community, about projects? I mean, I know a lot about your projects, not everything, but I learned something different about every single one of yours today. And the potential, right? That it's because of curiosity that these projects have come to life, and then also that the potential is going to be realized. So I love that.
Well, Angie,
Derek,
I don't want to interrupt you, but
No.
I just want to say that what Derek said about the teenagers that they're attracting into the studio, and what you just said, for me, draws one of those really strong parallels between what we're all doing and why it's not just kids that a lot of the work we do is for. I think that that's another assumption that folks make, that education programs that, you know, sometimes there are programs that are for, you know, different age groups, but the reality is that we need to build the confidence to be curious, just like the kids in the Oak Ridge community do, just like the kids in rural Iowa do. All of us need to do better at not just making assumptions for ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of. And so I think that that is a lesson to take home, whether you are hoping to participate in something that you've heard about today, or whether you want to make a donation to support it, or just go and check it out. But that idea of challenging our own assumptions, but also we're hoping that the people who we reach with these programs are challenging their own assumptions of what they can accomplish in their lives. And so I just loved what you said, and it reminded me of what Derek was accomplishing at the studio.
Yeah.
So
No, I love that. And that's, you know, that those things in your comments all tee up to like the last main thread that I was gathering from all of you, which is the be present thread. And Derek, I think you were the one who like first said it, like, just come, show up, visit. You know, and sometimes you can tinker with them, or maybe you don't want me tinkering with them, Derek, but you know, some people might want to tinker, but also it's just being there, it's asking questions, it's showing up, it's participating. And you're right, Blair, if you've been to the Nutcracker 15 years ago, it's not the same, you know, I mean, and there's other things. There's the STEM programming and a bunch of other things out there. So I love kind of all of those threads that you've got, that you all elevated for us. So I know I took us a little bit different direction, but as per usual, I just love the conversation. And I just, on behalf of the Community Foundation, just really incredibly grateful for how the three of your organizations do show up, how you do think differently, how you challenge assumptions, and you challenge all of us at the same time to think differently about potential. I certainly know that these are not the last projects that you all will be bringing to light in the community. And I think that's also what's super exciting. You know, I have shared with all of you, or the three of you here, that I truly do believe that philanthropy is just one part of the equation. You can have all the funding in the world, but if you don't have the people on the ground doing the things, making the impact, the equation doesn't reach a great result. And, you know, again, just really want to thank you for what you do in allowing the Community Foundation and other funder partners to come alongside you in creating real exciting and impactful programming in our community. You know, it really is a partnership. We talked a lot about that here today too, and we're grateful for that. And of course, to the people who've been a part of the Better Together Fund, you know, we started talking about what it's all about. You know, 10 years, 15 years ago, when that person went to the Nutcracker that you referenced, Blair, I bet they didn't imagine that the Ballet Des Moines would be, you know, downtown in that Burger King, talking about STEM programming and imagining how they might be hiring some folks from the Oak Ridge program to do lighting someday, right? I mean, just how grateful we are that people have invested in our community and given us the opportunity to invest in what you're doing. So really appreciate the chance to learn more. Blair, you teed it up for those on the call, and I just want to underscore it again. If these three projects are of interest to you, and certainly the other two that we'll talk about tomorrow, please reach out to these organizations. They're happy to talk about these projects. They're happy to talk about other things that are part of their organizational vision. If you're a donor advised fund holder, it's easy to make a contribution to support their work. And we also have all of these projects posted on GiveDSN. So check it out, consider how you could help support, you know, both financially alongside the Community Foundation, but also in other ways that they elevated today. And please be sure to show up when and where you can. It's always a pleasure to help connect people. Thank you so much to the three of you for spending time today. It was great seeing you, great to be part of the conversation, and thanks for allowing us to join with you. So with that, we'll see many people tomorrow. And again, great appreciation. Better together, right? I love it. Have a good one.